Thanks for tuning in. I'm Michael Watson, and this is the InfluenceWatch podcast. We're starting off the new year by taking one last look back at the old year, thanks to the 2019 Philanthropy Awards, published by Inside Philanthropy, a left-of-center news and commentary source on institutional funders. While listeners will likely be familiar with Inside Philanthropy's Philanthropist of the Year, billionaire investor and founder of the Open Society Foundation's George Soros, the website highlighted three other figures and institutions that bear watching in the left-of-center philanthropic world beyond the man who broke the Bank of England, and who in so doing may have inadvertently made possible Brexit by forcing the United Kingdom out of the predecessor financial arrangements to the European Union's single currency. We note Inside Philanthropy's runner-up to Soros, JPB Foundation funder Barbara Pickauer, Inside Philanthropy's Foundation President of the Year, Alan Greenberg of the Warren Buffett-funded Susan Thompson Buffett Foundation, and Inside Philanthropy's least transparent mega-giver, Laurene Powell Jobs, Apple executive Steve's widow. Unlike Soros, Buffett, and Jobs, the late investment billionaire Jeffrey Pickauer isn't exactly a household name. But one of Pickauer's associates in the financial world, Bernard Madoff, is, for having been the perpetrator of one of the largest Ponzi schemes in history, in connection with which Jeffrey's estate had to pay a $7.2 billion settlement to Madoff's victims. Now Pickauer's widow, Barbara Pickauer, is making a name for herself as a left-of-center mega-donor at the head of the JPB Foundation, an entity that the Foundation Center lists as the 23rd largest U.S. private foundation by total assets held. Jeffrey Pickauer died of a heart attack in 2009. Barbara attempted to fight the trustee attempting to recover funds involved in Madoff's schemes, who alleged Jeffrey, quote, knew or should have known, close quote, that he was profiting from a fraud. When federal prosecutors identified the $7.2 billion at stake as proceeds from, quote, specified unlawful activity or a conspiracy to commit such an offense, close quote, Barbara paid the settlement while denying Jeffrey was complicit in any crimes. Since then, Barbara has re-entered billion-dollar level philanthropy, endowing the JPB Foundation with over $3 billion in assets. And the JPB Foundation has become a major player in left-of-center institutional funding. Grant recipients include such institutional left-wing pillars as the ACLU, Planned Parenthood and the aligned research outfit Guttmacher Institute, the Tide Center funding and fiscal sponsorship outfit, and environmental groups like the Sierra Club and GRIST. In fact, then Planned Parenthood President Cecil Richards sat on the JPB Foundation board as of 2017. Warren Buffett is a liberal activist, a matter that has been public knowledge since at least the mid-2010s, when the legendary investor campaigned publicly for proposed Obama administration tax increases. But the sage of Omaha's liberal left politics go well beyond a campaign to establish a tax named after himself, and the Susan Thompson Buffett Foundation, funded by Warren and named for his late first wife, is crucial evidence. Let the left-leaning writers at Inside Philanthropy explain, in their praise of Alan Greenberg, the foundation's president. Quote, he's quietly built the Susan Thompson Buffett Foundation into one of America's largest grant makers. It gave out $624 million last year, more than the Ford Foundation. Lately, Susan Thompson Buffett Foundation's main issue, reproductive health, has been under worldwide assault, and Greenberg and his relatively small staff have moved a blizzard of grants to organizations leading the pushback, close quote. In fact, the Susan Thompson Buffett Foundation is, by one estimate, the largest not-for-profit, non-governmental funder of abortion access, abortion advocacy, and contraceptive development and distribution. As of 2012, the Buffett Foundation had provided Planned Parenthood and Planned Parenthood affiliates with over $300 million. The group has also made multi-million-dollar contributions to pro-abortion organizations Mary Stopes International and the National Abortion Federation Hotline Fund. The Buffett Foundation is also the principal funder of Catholics for Choice, a purportedly Catholic pro-abortion group that exists to criticize the religion's opposition to abortion. In 2015, the Buffett Foundation reported making grants equivalent to 87% of Catholics for Choice's reported expenditures for that year. The Buffett Foundation's contributions to Planned Parenthood and similar organizations have reportedly earned its status as an institutional partner in the left-wing Democracy Alliance donor conclave, which is also reported to include another Buffett family-associated left-of-center advocacy philanthropy venture, the Novo Foundation, headed by the investor's New Age musician son, Peter. And while Inside Philanthropy offered much gushing praise for various mega-rich liberals and multi-billion-dollar liberal philanthropic institutions, at least one was given a slight chiding. Laurene Powell Jobs, widow of Apple computer entrepreneur Steve Jobs, was the publication's, quote, least transparent mega-giver. According to Inside Philanthropy, Powell Jobs' giving focuses on, quote, standing up for undocumented immigrants, struggling students, beleaguered journalists, endangered species, and more. You see what I mean when I called their commentary gushing praise. But the publication goes on to note that we have no clue about how much she gives annually or where exactly the money goes. Powell Jobs' Emerson Collective is very well connected. To pick just one example, Arne Duncan, who served as education secretary in the Obama administration, ran the organization's Chicago office as of February 2019. And we do have some vague ideas of where Powell Jobs' money is going. Through the Emerson Collective, Powell Jobs took a controlling stake in The Atlantic, the liberal monthly news magazine, in the late 2010s. Powell Jobs and Emerson Collective are also major backers of other left-of-center nonprofit journalism outfits, reported to include ProPublica, Mother Jones, The Marshall Project, Texas Observer, and Lawfare. But much of Emerson Collective's grant-making disappears into the mist of a donor-advised fund, a vehicle through which megadonors can obscure their contributions. Some recipients of Emerson Collective funding have identified the funding as coming, quote, through the Silicon Valley Community Foundation, a provider of donor-advised funds preferred by many left-of-center technology industry figures. And while we respect Powell Jobs' rights to privacy in her contributions, we have to note some hypocrisy. While Powell Jobs and other liberal Silicon Valley megadonors employ donor-advised funds, especially through the Silicon Valley Community Foundation, for their giving, other liberal organizations are pushing for increased regulation of donor-advised funds, largely to deny their use to conservative givers, which would force conservative giving into the crosshairs of attack dog liberal groups like People's Action or the Southern Poverty Law Center. That's our show for this week. If you're listening to this on YouTube, we encourage you to subscribe on iTunes or Stitcher, and if you have subscribed, thank you, and please leave us a 5-star rating. We'll see you next week.